Aisha said,
recorded in Tabari, "The story reached the Prophet, and I missed the attention he once showed me. He would come to see me while my mother was nursing me and say, 'How is she?' and nothing more. We were Arab folk. We did not have these privies in our houses that the foreigners have. We loathed such things. Instead, we would go out into the fields of Medina. One day, when I was out with the girls, one said, 'Daughter, take it lightly. Whenever a beautiful woman married to a man has rival wives, they always gossip about her, and people do the same.' I showed my astonishment."
So Mohammed used his mosque to attack those who defamed his favorite toy. When he finished, Usaid said,
"Even if they are brothers, give the command. I will rid you of them because they deserve to have their heads cut off."
A squabble ensued.
Ishak, "By Allah, you lie," one said to another. "Liar yourself! You are a disaffected person arguing on behalf of the diseased."
Another shouted, providing fodder for the fourth surah.
Over this affair, fighting almost broke out between the Muslim clans.
Yet some men were simply rude rather than rash.
Tabari and Ishak, Ali,
Muhammad's adopted son, his son-in-law, future caliph, and Shiite saint,
said, "Prophet, women are plentiful. You can get a replacement, easily changing one for another."
Studying the formation of Islam is like wallowing in the mud with pigs. It stinks to high heaven, and there are swine everywhere. But this little pig wasn't finished. He huffed,
"Ask the slave girl. She will tell you the truth." So the apostle called Borea to ask her. Ali got up and gave her a violent beating first, saying, "Tell the apostle the truth."
Caught between a sexist and a sadist, the slave was of no value to either man. Ali couldn't force her to speak badly of Aisha, and Mohammed chose not to listen. All we know is that the founders of Islam captured and owned slaves, and they beat them without remorse. In a related hadith,
Muslim, Allah's messenger delivered an address mentioning a camel and a bad person who cut off its hind legs, reciting, "When the basest of them broke forth with mischief." Then he delivered instructions, saying, "There are amongst you those who beat their women. They flog them like slave girls. Then, after flogging them like slaves, they comfort them in their beds as a result at the end of the day." He then advised in regard to people laughing at the breaking of wind, and said, "You laugh at that which you yourself do."
It may have been the world's worst sermon. While this is a story about Aisha's infidelity, we're learning a great deal about the nature of Islam and the character of Muhammad and his cronies. For example, the first caliph, Abu Bakr, wasn't much of a father.
Tabari and Ishak, "When Muhammad came into my room, my parents were with me. I was crying. I waited for my mother and father to reply to the apostle, but they did not speak. I asked my parents why they were afraid to defend me, but they said nothing. My weeping broke out afresh. I swear I considered myself too lowly and unimportant for Allah to reveal a Koran about me, to be recited in mosques and used in worship, but I was hoping that the Prophet would see something in a dream from Allah which would clear me of this."
Aisha was young and cute. So what do you suppose the over-hormoned profiteer did next? Yep, he contrived another Allahism to satiate his cravings. Muhammad was as predictable as a mosquito at a nudist colony.
Tabari and Ishak, "Before Allah's messenger left the place where he was sitting, there came over him from Allah what used to come over him. They covered him with his garment and set a leather cushion under his head. Then he recovered and sat up. Drops of sweat fell from him like silver beads. He began wiping the perspiration from his brow and said, 'Good news, Aisha. Allah has sent down a word about your innocence.' I said, 'To Allah's praise and your blame.' Then he went out to the people and preached to them. He recited the Koran Allah had revealed concerning me, and gave orders concerning Mistah, Hassan and Hamnah, who were the most explicit in their slander. They received their prescribed flogging of 80 lashes. They were beaten to the boundary of death for their crime against the religion of Islam.
This equates
The religion of Islam
with making Mohammed feel good. Islam's founder routinely made up Quran scripture to suit his agenda. However, there was a glimmer of light in this story. Aisha knew better. That's why she condemned Mohammed the moment he revealed the 24th Surah, a divine revelation inspired by infidelity. It's called
the Criterion. Quran 24, verse 1. This is a surah which we have revealed and made obligatory, and in which we have revealed a clear communication that you might be mindful. For the woman and the man guilty of adultery or fornication, flog each of them with 100 stripes. Let not compassion move you in their case, in the matter prescribed by Allah, and let a party of the believers witness their punishment.
For Mohammed to avoid having the lash applied to him, he had to have his God condone polygamy, which is adultery in all sane religions and societies, as well as pedophilia, which is what was being approved here, incest, approved earlier in the 33rd Surah, unwed sex with concubines, which is fornication, and sex with slaves, which is rape. In other words, Mohammed was a hypocrite, the embodiment of the condition he condemned. That said, it was time for a situational scripture. Mohammed's plaything had been accused of adultery, but in order that her services might continue to arouse him, this Quranic surah was conveniently revealed.
Quran 24, verse 4. And those who launch a charge against chaste women, and produce not 4 witnesses to support their allegations, flog them with 80 stripes, and reject their evidence ever after. For such men are wicked transgressors.
Aisha had but 3 accusers. How fortuitous! Now that the witnesses had been punished and the perpetrators exonerated, Mohammed put Muslim women in their place, in submission to men.
Quran 24, verse 6. And for those who launch a charge against their wives, accusing them, but have no witnesses or evidence except themselves, let the testimony of one of them be 4 testimonies, swearing 4 times, by Allah, that he is the one speaking the truth, and the 5th oath, that they solemnly invoke the curse of Allah on themselves if they tell a lie.
That pretty much sums up the plight of Islamic women. If their husbands say that they are bad 4 times, they're as good as dead. Men don't need evidence. In the Islamic world, women can't speak or even leave their home without their husband's permission. So this next verse is rendered moot by the situation created by Islam.
Quran 24, verse 8. But it would avert the punishment from the wife of being stoned to death if she bears witness 4 times by Allah that her husband is telling a lie, and the 5th oath should be that she solemnly invokes the wrath of Allah on herself if her accuser is telling the truth.